Right, good morning everybody, and thanks for joining us. Thanks also for being so prompt this morning, very well behaved. My name's Ian Sinnott, I'm the Sales Director of VanillaIP, and today I'm going to deliver the latest in our series of webinars, this time focusing on our Eternity License program, that's perpetual licenses and the commercials around them. Now in doing that, I'm also just going to cover off, for those people who are not currently working with us, some elements of how we construct the packages and line up the services that our resellers take and sell, and also the alternative commercial models that we have alongside the Eternity. So if you have any questions at the end, do please raise them using the app, or probably more usefully, if you reach out to us after the event, we'll be happy to have a relaxed conversation about any element that you wish to go back over. So let's start off by saying that Eternity licenses or perpetual licenses are a methodology for increasing your margin. So we're focusing today not so much on the revenue side of the business, but the actual profitability of the things that we sell. And just as a benchmark, I think we can probably easily get to the point where we agree that margin or profit margin is the sales price less the cost. And whereas if we try and sell harder or we produce smarter packages, we may be able to lift up the sale price, and many of you do, congratulations. The area that we're going to look at today is to challenge the cost price that you have in the products and services you sell, and the methods in which we can help you to reduce that cost price so that if you keep the sale price static, you're able to increase the margin, which is a good objective for us all. So let's just start off by looking at some of the market forces within this maturing sector, within HPBX, hosted PBX services. And I'm just going to list out a couple. I'm sure there's a number more, but I think it's fair to say that we're all seeing an increasing number of opportunities, which can't be a bad thing. We're also definitely seeing a decrease in customer resistance. Knowledge of cloud has increased. Knowledge and understanding of the delivery of cloud PBX solutions has increased, so we're finding less resistance in the customer and probably more quotes as a result of that. But what we are seeing, which is a little bit different, and this is maybe only over the last 12 months, is a move to a more selective adoption of features. So in the early stages of the growth sector of our marketplace, a one-size-fits-all simple single package had an awful lot of traction in the marketplace. But now the customers are becoming a little bit more discerning and a little bit more involved. That may be changing. And the final point that I'll bring up is we're seeing an increase in the number of competitors. A number of people who were involved in the standard PBX market have finally given that up. We have players from the IT sector who are coming in and seeing our product as a more IT orientated solution. We've got mobile players who are coming across and utilizing their great relationships with their customer base to capitalize on a different revenue stream. So we're clustering up, as all good sales environments do, a number of new players to challenge us. So what does this translate to? Well, on a positive, the first thing, when we're talking about margin, the first two may actually bring down our cost of sale. The marketing costs, the sales costs may be reduced because frankly we just get more deals per body. We get more reaction to the marketing messages that we send out there. In the second section, and this is really where we're going to be focusing a lot on today, we can see that the customer is now open to a strategy that visibly reduces the waste within the packages that we sell them, producing a more aggressive price point. And we see an opportunity to get customers to pay a slightly higher margin price for services which they clearly identify as part of their requirements. So we'll break that down as we go through the proposition, but this is key to us maximizing the margin within our deals. And the final point here obviously is a great danger to our sale price and therefore our margin. It creates a buyer's market and it can reduce the sales price, especially where the customer can easily see a direct comparable proposition. So we need to make sure that the customer, in the 60% of the buying cycle that they now do on Google before they come and see us, cannot already erode our price by aligning us with simple, same standard competitors. But let's roll through and start by looking at how VanillaIP are looking to support the resellers in the construction of this package and the construction of that good, strong margin field. The first element, and do please come and talk to us in more detail about this if you're new, is how we help our resellers to construct a package with unique features, with enhanced reporting, and building into that some unique elements from your own portfolio and protected under your own brand, so that we get away from this ability for customers to shop you around. We've got unique elements, and we've got our own presentation and branding, branded names, etc., etc. So part of our starting point is to set up the product in a strong and defendable way. Then we can look at the cost elements, the bit that we're focusing on perhaps today. And simply put, this will be the area you've probably all tuned in for. How do we pay less to our supplier, VanillaIP, for the product that we're going to deliver to the customer over the lifetime of that customer or beyond? So we'll take a close look at that and the eternity license model during this presentation. Not covered so deeply in this presentation, but I encourage you to talk to us or look out for future webinars on this. The cost of sales and marketing, so we're investing quite a lot in sales material, marketing material for you, and also there's a new sales training program coming out very soon to help your salespeople become stronger and slicker at selling these value add products. And finally, and we talk about this quite a lot, but we encourage you to look deeper at this as well, but the cost to manage, the attack on the cost to manage, using UBOS principally as a tool to deliver great customer service, technical support to the customers, bringing billing and invoice management into a low-cost environment, and eradicating errors and missed opportunities to bill. These are all areas which are not necessarily directly related to the sale, but directly affect the margin that we take from the deals that we write. But let's go into the Eternity product and the solution that we have presented to our resellers over the past few months. And just break that down. Now, Lee Houston delivered a webinar on the Smart User a couple of weeks ago, and again, if you've not seen that, please go onto the website and look at past webinars, and that will help you further understand all of the economic structures around Smart User. But essentially, we're starting off with this idea that instead of having a one-size-fits-all, all features included proposition, we're going to look for a standard base block, a building block to start with, and then build services onto that. So we're starting at the bottom in the low price area and delivering higher functionality where required. So what does a Smart User look like? Well, simply it includes making and receiving calls, holding calls, forwarding calls that you would expect, participation in hunt groups, pickup groups, and music on hold, so there are no additional costs for those products that the customer has to bear. Access to a common phone list or a corporate directory, and the construction of a personal directory. These are slickly handled by UBOS as a portal, but deliver great simple call making functionality to the customer. Ad hoc conferencing calls, the ability to bring three parties together in a very simple way, is part and parcel of the core package. But we've added this as collaboration really takes off, and as people look to work in increasingly economically sensible ways, i.e. reducing travel wherever possible, we've included a full conference bridge for each individual user. So each individual user can be a moderator and take advantage of a fantastic conference tool, which in the normal world would be a very expensive standalone element. You've probably seen information about this, but again, do consume more about it because it's very important in this sort of day and age with hackers rife in our marketplace. VanillaIP has taken the step to be responsible for the fraud management within the telephony sector that we're dealing with. So there is a fraud guarantee which will set the maximum fraud exposure for you and your customers at an extension level, and gives you that sort of security against toll fraud, hacking fraud, etc. Add to that high levels of reporting in UBOS, the ability for the extension to be preset with its auto DR, and access for that user into the UBOS portal for service configurations. So not a totally simple, useless extension, but a very comprehensive initial pack that will translate into a large percentage of the marketplace which you're addressing. Now, on top of that, our resellers have then the freedom to either present an a la carte menu of services on top, or to build up increasingly feature-rich packages that customers consume. So take the Smart User as your starter pack. You could have a middle pack, and you could have a top featured pack, and that's how you're able to construct a UBOS. But if we look here, we're looking at the waste management. We talked about it on the early slide. How are we addressing waste management? Why not have a one-size-fits-all proposition? Well, we'll look at the services here: DDI, voicemail, inclusive minutes. These are all proposition elements that you see in the one-size-fits-all. Unity as a set of call control apps, smart apps for your PC. If you're not familiar with Unity, do please go again to the website or reach out to us and we'll show you how these work. But the functionality in these really smart PC-based, low-cost PC-based applications does two things. One, it gives the customer a slicker experience, but two, it actually takes away the requirement to have an expensive piece of desktop hardware to control the functionality. So in terms of making the proposition easier to swallow for the customer, it's going to reduce that capital element by quite a decent way. You've then got the mobility services, really key area of the BroadSoft proposition, the BroadWorks Anywhere, the remote office, and the flexible seating models all falling within this particular pack. And then beside that, call recording, which again can be seen in many propositions as a automatically included function. But these all have a cost element, along with soft phones, call center agents, and international numbers, which I've done. So they all have a cost. They all contribute to the cost of a one-size-fits-all. But there's quite a surprising current deployment percentage on these. And some of these surprised even me when we did the analysis. Over the last 3 months, the last sales quarter, only 50% of the extensions required a DDI number, which I personally thought would be higher, but there you go, stats are stats. Voicemail is deploying at 55%, but that's a falling number. We've seen it come down from 60 in the last 9 months. We've got mobility, which is deploying at 20%, which is probably as we might expect, or perhaps edging up to 30% as more people work flexibly. We can see that rising over time. Call recording, a high productivity area, this, and it's good to see this developing to a 28%. I see this going to 35-40% in the not too distant future. Soft phones still sitting at 13%, but again, as we see more flexibility or people with less attachment to handsets coming in, we can see them falling. And then call center agents, a decent 10% at the present time as people move from hunt groups to a slightly better call management strategy, or the fact that our partners are selling to some decent call centers as well. So what we see by looking at this and by splitting these away from the one-size-fits-all and creating either a series of bundles or an a la carte menu, that we can still keep things simple enough for the growing knowledge of the customer base to consume easily. But we're avoiding this red zone where unless there is a benefit to the customer, unless they choose to buy them, the benefit is only at the platform owner level. And it's waste so far as you're concerned in your cost price, and waste so far as the customer is concerned in their retail price. And they'll challenge the retail price more and more if they see waste within it. And then it gives you the opportunity when selling something like call recording to perhaps charge a premium price, sell it properly against the functionality that we deliver through the UBOS portal, and mean that you're increasing your margin rather than squeezing it to shoehorn it into the everybody package. So those are the principles around how the smart user build-up proposition works. But let's just have a look at pricing, because again, that's why you've keyed in this morning or logged in this morning. We at VanillaIP present 3 models to you as the resellers in order to buy the proposition. The first one, as you would expect, is a 30-day rolling license, and all of the products that we've got, I've kept the subset here, but we obviously have a wider portfolio covering some really smart tools. All of them are available on a 30-day rolling license. We also operate a 36-month rebate license scenario, and you can see the elements that I put an asterisk by here. These all contribute to a hardware fund against which you can call off hardware, and which your customer can call off hardware that they require for the desk. Again, remember, we're talking about the deployment of Unity, which means the smarts go onto the PC. So with the rebate totaling between £50 and £80 per user, you'll find that you're able to deploy an acceptable and highly functional handset to each user without necessarily moving up into the high cost elements that make some of the deals harder to present. So you've got a nice mix between cool functionality and the delivery of highly effective, easily controlled hardware to the desk. The licenses automatically return to being 30-day licenses at the end of their term. So UBOS is going to handle that term management for you. You don't need to have an overhead of checking where people's contracts have got to. And UBOS also manages all the rebates. So it'll establish the rebate against a rebate license, and it'll degrade that balance every time a piece of kit is ordered through that particular customer. So easily self-managed. But let's roll on to Eternity, the perpetual license model, and just see how that works out. Now, you're probably familiar with the way these things work. You have a one-off cost, which is for the license purchase, and there is a retained monthly maintenance charge from us to you for that particular license for the lifetime of that license. In general terms, the payback period against a 30-day price is about 26 months. So every license that you buy, when you go past month 26, you will have made in additional margin on top of the 30-day price at that point, and for every day that passes thereafter. And critically, we see for you as resellers, you can buy these licenses one by one. You can buy them product by product, so you're not buying a whole suite of Eternity functionality in one license. You can buy Smart User, you can buy voicemail, you can buy mobility and call recording, all as separate Eternity licenses. And you can buy them one by one, or you can buy them in bulk. So you've got complete flexibility according to your cash flow or the propositions you're putting out, how and when you buy those products from us. UBOS will apply them at the reseller level. It doesn't need to be linked to a specific customer. We're actually just improving your margin call, not necessarily assuming that you're passing this through. But if you wish to pass it through to the customer, then the UBOS will manage it at all levels and create any linking that you wish to have there. You can mix all three of these buying methods together. Commonly, you might buy Eternity licenses for the Smart User, but do 30-day for the other more transitional services, at least for the time being, while you look at your settled base. Equally, you may buy 36-month rebate licenses for 90% of a customer, but keep 10% of it on 30-day. UBOS will simply handle all of those different license types easily together. There's no additional overhead for being smart with the way you use our products. And historically, we've seen new partners start off with 30-day to make sure everything measures up to their expectations, and then move across to the Eternity licenses where they can capitalize on the additional margin. So let's just talk about the margin call here. Smart User, as I said, I'm going to use Smart User as an example here. All the other licenses have their own equation. We're happy to go through them with you in detail. But the Smart User as a one-by-one is £52.35. Add that to the maintenance, the monthly maintenance of £145, means your 36-month cost for that product is £104.70. That's an equivalent of £291 per month for the Smart User license. If, however, you bulk purchase them, and you can purchase them in advance of selling them, or you can purchase them in arrears of selling them, that price will go down to £47.11. Maintenance charge remains at £145, bringing your cost price down to £99.46 and an equivalent of £276. So there's margin, additional margin for buying in bulk, as you might expect. But the core message really is here: you simply can make 20% more margin on the products and services you're used to selling, either through rebate or through the 30-day product. by purchasing the Eternity license, and that's 20% over 3 years. If you factored it over 5 years, you're probably seeing a 34% drop in the cost price, and therefore an increase in your margin if you keep your sale price static. A lot of people I know, when they're accounting for this, will consider the 3-year period as the write-down period for that initial cost price. But that means in 3 years' time, you're holding an asset at £1.45 per month, which is 55% cheaper than taking the license at its current price. So it's a very good way of preparing yourself as a business for retaining customers coming out of contract, or for utilising those assets further beyond the life of those original customers to win new business, or to have a commanding overall cost price that allows you to be aggressive in the marketplace. So it's straightforward, sensible, and to make it easy, UBOS is there to automatically manage all of the Eternity license structures however you construct them up. So there's no additional overhead to having this Eternity license suite in behind you. So just before we close, and thanks for your attention, I know there's quite a lot, but do come and talk to us in more detail about this. Let's just hit on some of those other margin makers that we mustn't forget as we go along. We sell a true white label proposition. We work with the resellers to make sure their brand, their naming convention, their package creation and their stamp is all over the product they put out to market in a way that means like for like Google searching is nigh on impossible. Within UBOS, you're able to take the additional services of BroadSoft, the additional products in the Unity suite, the UBOS specialist services like call recording and Conference Bridge. You might bring in GSM Mobile, you might bring in other services, IT services or software services from your own portfolio, and cluster them around to make your proposition strong. And for all those elements that don't sit in the core package, hopefully you can command a better sale price because they fulfill a visible demand from the customer, rather than being an assumed general scattershot package for the customer to consume. Again, you may want to look at this more carefully, but those who are experienced in the revenue game know that this top line is worth a lot of money as the base becomes bigger. Incremental service upsell and the automatic micro payment capture. So if I've got little 50p services that people nibble away at and bring up, it's hard if you don't have automation to get profit out of selling those extra services, which is why we invest so much in UBOS, so that you can incrementally rise the price to your customers through neat little additional services, but not lose all of the benefit in the cost to administer. And incremental services may be as simple as putting a £1 setup charge on a soft phone, so every time somebody self-serves a soft phone, you get £1 for doing nothing. That just goes in the margin call. I touch on there the idea of self-service. This has got to be an increasing area. You don't go to the O2 shop to get an app for a step counter. You just go to the App Store. Self-service is all about UBOS creating an app store for those little additional services which the customers increasingly consume. And then if you take UBOS all the way through to being your billing solution, an automated bill going out on the first of the month, first of all means that you have less headcount in your billing team, which reduces your costs. It also improves cash flow. We're not really talking about cash flow today, but we should never ignore it because it's vital to all of us. It will improve the cash flow of your business, getting the bills out early. And finally, we talk about UBOS looking after the commercial rule management. This is where a lot of money is lost. This is where a lot of money a margin is eroded. It's single entry. It's about setting up the proposition and the rules of those propositions at the start, which our team will help you with. But there will never be a mischarge for a service. You can't deploy a service unless there's a charge associated to it. UBOS will always pick up and apply those charges. Never miss an early settlement. If a customer's on a 36-month rebate and somebody cuts them off a month early, you lose a chunk of your margin in letting them go within the contract period. UBOS will make sure that all settlement charges are automatically administered. And then the billing and invoicing, as I've said, is a reduction of your manpower. So all in all, Eternity licenses are a simple way of increasing your margin call. and those other elements are other ways that we can nibble up this margin. So if I ask you in conclusion to pick one of these lines, I'd be surprised if any of you said you were aiming for the first line, the red line. But in an aggressive marketplace where increased competition and customer knowledge and the customer ability to Google search you may drive down your margin, that might be the standard way that the marketplace will perform. If we're smart, if we can sell higher value, higher margin services on top of a basic pack, we may be able to flatline our margin call and make sure that over time we're making the same amount per customer in terms of profit. But if we really work hard, if we can rip out all of the waste from the licenses that you purchase and that you ask your customers to purchase, if we can protect your price point with a true white label solution, and if we can get the machine, if we can get UBOS to look after the commercial rule management, capture all those small incremental bits of money and automate as much of the back office function as we can, then we should be able to, over time, not only grow the revenue of the customer, but grow the margin call on that revenue as we go. So for those of you who know me, you will not be surprised to hear me summarize by saying UBOS is the enabler. UBOS will help you create the higher margin through the reduced cost. It'll help you with the brand control and the creation of these flexible, unique packages at your level. It'll fully manage the eternity licenses, but if you're using the rebate and 30-day propositions as well, it'll help you manage them side by side without the additional overhead of a big finance department or a big admin department. And finally, it enables true cloud services. That self-service, that app store, that additional revenue service element. It's important now. It will be vital in the future, not only because of the customer's expectation, but because of the cost of administrating a service that isn't self-serve. So all in all, I think we've got a very strong proposition. I'm very grateful for you taking the time to listen to it. Do please book us for a longer chat. I'm just going to ask Charlotte if we've got any questions.
Yeah, just one. Can you buy and allocate eternity licenses via UBOS?
You can, at the present time, you would buy eternity licenses through application directly to your account manager, and then they are applied against your account in UBOS. You can then apply licenses down to the customer level if you're doing eternity through the UBOS portal. Okay, well listen, everybody, have a great day, successful day. I'd love to sit and chat with any of you who are new to us, and I look forward to seeing our old friends in the very near future. Have a great Tuesday. Bye for now.